Hi.
Hello. Hi, Athena. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Internet is so slow. The voices are going and coming back so slow. Now you can hear me?
Our internet, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
rough.
hear you just fine, but yeah, the picture is kind of
Okay. Right now it's okay. I can see you. I can hear you well. Is it okay?
yeah, I think I can kind of hear you.
Okay,
Yeah, I can
good.
hear you easily, but the connection is a little bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's
It,
start.
yeah. Okay, let's start. How are you, by the way?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Nice to meet you, Athena. Let me tell who I am, what I am doing here before we start. My name is Serpil Soykan. I have 18 years executive assistant background. I graduated from Marmara University in Istanbul, in Turkey. Right now, I am working at textile company, one of the leading textile companies in Turkey. But in the past, I used to be working for automotive sector for almost 17 years. This is who I am. And I love my job. I'm an executive assistant,
Oh,
and
great.
I was trying to reach executive assistants in other countries to see where we are globally, what we are doing. Even we have the same title, the same definition as executive assistants. Of course, the responsibilities that the manager is passing through to us, or the culture, the companies, everything is affecting this definition. And I just would like to see how this position is going globally. That's why I conducted a project here 1.5 months ago. So far, I interviewed with almost 60 executives from different countries such as USA, Mexico, India, Japan, China. Is going like that. Now, as executive
Oh,
assistants, now we are trying to gather together to stay connected, to increase the consciousness of this job description. Now, I am newly the member of IMA, International Management Assistant, with the support of Ms. Menekşe Ahbap here, who introduced me this association. So this is who I am. So I would like to know who you are, what you are doing.
okay, great. Let's see. I graduated college about 10 years ago, and at that time, I actually wasn't sure where my career was going. I got a degree in psychology. I wanted to do HR, or so I thought, but the only jobs I could really find, because I was already an office manager, was kind of going into the admin assistant, executive assistant route. So I ended up, I've actually worked in many companies since then in the past 10 years doing office help, office work, some more traditional EA roles, and sometimes, a bit of a hybrid between receptionist, EA, office manager, admin, even event coordinating. So just all of that. I know I'm in California, Silicon Valley. So here, I find the companies I work for are a little smaller. I do have friends that work for big tech companies. So their role is pretty defined usually. It's scheduling, travel coordinating, expense reports, and yeah. Can you still hear me okay? I think our
Yes, I
connection's
can.
not so
Yes,
good.
I can hear you. By the way, travel coordinator
Hello?
is. Hello, I'm here. By the way, travel coordinator is one
Okay,
of the travel coordinator is one of the executive assistant responsibilities in California, or is it another job description? In Turkey, if you are an executive assistant, travel coordinator is a part of this job description. Is it the same in California?
Yeah, usually it is. And because the EAs are handling so much work, a lot of times we go through a third third-party travel agent, but we're still, having to correspond back and forth. So in our case, we usually use Amex Travel.
Uh-huh. Good. You mentioned that you.
So we're not necessarily.
The internet is so bad. So you mentioned that you handled this position for almost 10
You want me
years.
to restart my computer?
Yeah, internet is so slow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
one moment.
really? I saw your other interview. The internet seems good there.
I will try to connect my computer from my cell phone. Like I will switch on it like modem. Let me immediately, because home internet is not working properly today. So let me immediately. Okay. It should be working now. Yeah, hello.
Hey.
Huh, hey, okay. So you were mentioning about travel coordinator. Maybe I didn't hear very well. Is it the bird? Huh. Okay.
So travel coordinating, yeah, it definitely is part of the job description for helping out the executives, because a lot of times they're traveling. They might go 3 places in a week sometimes. And so you have to coordinate. Sometimes they'll do, point A, B, point C destinations. They're just, hitting the road, and they're going to hit a few states and a few time zones. So our responsibility is to make sure that it's on their calendar, the time zones are correctly advocated for, and then also we coordinate a lot with the travel agencies. So we use Amex, and they do, they'll do the car pickup to and from the airport. They'll do the plane flights and the rental cars and everything. So it's very convenient.
Yeah, almost the same as here. You mentioned that you handled this job almost 10 years, right?
Like I said, I've actually been through a lot of different jobs. I've actually hopped around quite a bit, which, it's great for experience, but sometimes people are like, oh, why didn't you just stay at a job for 10 years? But for me, I get a little restless at jobs, and all my executives I've ever worked for have been fabulous. But it's just, sometimes the tasks and the office, it just gets a little mundane, and I need to switch it up. Sometimes I feel like that's how you have to do it in order to get, your pay grade higher. So sometimes it's a little hard to work within the office to try to get that raise if you're an EA. Because let's face it, EA roles, they don't tend, as you get old, as you grow with the role, you do take on more responsibilities, but a lot of times it's still the same. It's kind of, it's a lot of the same responsibilities. So.
Yeah. Maybe last week when we were having our first meeting with our association, we were wondering what the other executive assistants are doing in other countries. As I told you, that even we hold the same definition, we wonder what they are doing in a daily basis. For me, I wake up at 5 a.m. and then I'm just starting my day with reminders to my manager, and also with the customers, with other people that my manager will get in contact during the day. And also when I get office, I immediately clean my office, and when my manager comes, we just check up to-do list, what we are going to do, what we are not going to do. So, and also I'm just trying to involve in the daily meetings or board meetings if he wants me to join, something like that is going. So how about in California? What executive assistants are doing? Would you please share your experience with us?
Absolutely. So my last office I worked for as an EA, there was 10 people total in the office. And 2 of them were me and another executive assistant. She would get in earlier. She had a daughter. So, she'd drop the daughter off at school, go into work, be there at 7:30. I didn't have to come in until 9. The reason being they wanted the office hours to be 7:30 to 6 p.m. close. So I would stay until 6 p.m. She would get off at 4:30. So, we have kind of, we make sure an executive assistant day is between usually 7 to 9 hours in the office. So, yeah, so they're pretty, California laws, they're pretty strict about like making sure we don't, And if we do stay longer, there's overtime involved. So they kind of had us stagnated there with our scheduling. And usually what would happen is I would come in, wouldn't even have time for coffee, just sit right down, make sure to catch up on those emails that I got, overnight. I know a lot of EAs take their homework home with them, but in my case, sometimes, like if my computer wasn't set up or something, I wouldn't have time. So immediately just tackle your emails, do any scheduling, calls, and a lot of times there was last minute changes, sometimes travel changes. You have to get a hold of the other, either executives or the other EAs. So there's a lot of communication with the other EAs too, right?
Right.
Just a very traditional, like staying on top of your email. And then, around noon, I would start to free up a little bit and have time for my coffee. But with this office, I was actually sitting right in the very front. So they had a locked door. We would have to buzz people in because it was the financial industry. So we actually, while I'm handling all of this work, sometimes I get, a buzz and I look and I could see through the glass doors who it was. So I would just buzz them in. And sometimes it was work repair people. I'd have to greet them and be like, hey, like, let me help you, show you where this or that person. And then also they didn't have a receptionist because the office is so small. So when people came in, I would make sure that, there's conference rooms reserved for them. I would greet them, get their coffee, their tea. If it was like around noon, make sure that we had lunch provided, with the executives, his okay on that. So yeah, it was a lot. I think also what's interesting is just seeing the different types of structures. So like the last one, I supported 4 people, including a managing director. So it was a managing director, a principal, and then 2 associates. But I've worked in places where one time, like the first job out of college that I had, she was, or it was like, he had about 3 assistants, including a personal chef. And I was like the bottom totem pole because I was entry level. I was just out of college. So for that role, it was kind of like a lot of coordinating with all the assistants. So, sure. And just even like little tasks. Sometimes I would take his car to get it filled for gas because he doesn't have time, right? So just making the little details are good. Sometimes, he'd have to go to an opera and he didn't have a jacket. So I'd have to run to his house, grab a jacket. So there was like personal assistant stuff intertwined with that. Yeah. And then I've also worked directly under a guy. I worked in an office of just me and him and then some overseas engineers. They were in Sweden. And that was fun. Like he trusted me super well. Like just like it sounds like you're very close with your executive. He would always sit down the minute we got in, sit down, talk about who he wants to reach out to, how does he want to schedule his meetings. He was very like interactive. I've also worked with some people that aren't so, it's kind of like you go in and you got to figure it out. And there's not very much correspondence because maybe they're on the phone all the time. And, so it's a lot of that. And definitely every job with the executive assisting, super important. The chemistry has to work on both ends. Like you have to get along with them and they have to get along with you. And you almost have to sometimes be like a mind reader and just use common sense and be like, you know what, this is like an internal meeting. I think they're probably going to want to take that over an external meeting. We can push that one forward or, and then maybe ask, can I reschedule? What do you think? And it's a lot of thinking ahead and it's finding the right time because they're busy. So you don't want to bother them. Like you just have to find the right time when they have 2 minutes alone where they can talk to you and you can be like, regarding this, regarding that, regarding this. So it's struggling, right? Like, the role is definitely like, you have to be flexible. You have to use common sense. You have to think ahead for your executives. So there's just so many things. And then obviously the human dynamic, sometimes you have to keep confidentiality. They don't necessarily, like if I'm rescheduling an appointment, they don't need to know that they're second on the list. We just say there was a schedule conflict. So sorry. So yes, it's also keeping your poise and rolling with the punches, so to speak, and be professional. Definitely.
Do you think that in California, this position is receiving the sufficient credit from people, human resources, or even from the managers? In Turkey, it's not in the place where it is supposed to be. some people see that this is one of the positions subordinate one. These interviews aiming for this to increase the consciousness of executive assistant job description. We are trying to show these people that we are also having crucial responsibilities in the companies, that they can pass through this kind of even workloads to us. How it is in California? Is it receiving the enough credits for that?
Well, EA work is very highly valued here. Yes. Some of the things that I feel, unfortunately, are not getting the kind of recognition they should, definitely administrative assistants. They're really busy. And a lot of times they're pushing paperwork and they have to be focused, and they're supporting the entire office, not just one executive. So I feel like sometimes I look at the pay differences and I think, wow, like that's not really fair. Just, and that's me coming from, I've worked entry level, and so I understand like the appreciation it's not as respected as maybe an EA here. Being an EA here is very highly respected. In fact, I have friends that
Very good.
some of them make $200,000 a year here doing EA work. I mean, that's a high level. Been doing it for 20 years, but yeah, it's possible. If you get in with the right CEO, and it's a lot. It's still a lot of responsibility, but they're I guess they've worked up to it. So I feel like, and then I have other friends. I feel like the tech industry specifically has done a great job acknowledging their EAs, and they really keep them included in their company like appreciation. So they're always they're always included in company meetings and so on. Working in the financial industry, I definitely see more sometimes like they would want to go to New York. It would just be only the business side, not the administration side, right? So we stay in the office and then they go to New York. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, and I guess also I'm not so involved in their deals, so it's not a huge deal if I don't go. But I know for tech companies, they're really big on just being really inclusive, really appreciating their EAs, and
very good.
Yeah. I think, let's see. I think it's a great option in California. A lot of girls some of them don't even have their college degrees. They just got in, they got the experience, and they make great benefits and great salary. You can totally like raise a family on it. Yeah.
Wow, very good. And Athena, as lastly, maybe you don't know that time to time I'm giving training to students at high school and also at universities to make these students the next generation of executive assistants, to get them, teach them more about who we are, because they only know this position from the books, let's say, what they read. But for like me, executive assistants coming from the sector, we are trying to show them with examples that what we are doing. So is there a suggestion you can pass through these students, what they should do, what skills they can develop in themselves to be a great executive assistant?
Let's see. I would say first, most important thing is organization. Organization and learning how to multitask. Those two things are super important. Just being able, if you're asked where something is, you need to know where it is immediately, and you need to be able to find that folder, and don't waste 30 minutes looking around your office for it. That's one thing. I think definitely correspondence, like learning computers. Definitely computers are important. Setting up knowing how to set up the programs that they use, and being able to talk to IT and troubleshoot computers. I think that really the job encompasses so many skills. Being personable, knowing, being able to see a problem before it happens, right? Just like anticipating. um, learning how to do inventory and, you know, for example, like with kitchen stuff or printer stuff, you don't want to run out of copy paper. Yeah, I think those are all really important skills. What did you think?
Yeah, for me, I can say that proactive anticipation, they need to be open-minded to learn more, and at least can try to understand, to put empathy. This is very important. This is very
I think
important from my side.
communication as well, and then being able to think on your feet when there's no communication.
Yeah, and
So
communication, as you said, it's taking the first step in my list. If you don't have communication management skills like office management, time management, so they can't do take place in the organization. This is what I can see during my experience in 18 years. And also, of course, it's depending on the manager with whom you are working. If you can't work in the same path with your manager, whatever capabilities you have, time to time, it can be nothing, because you need to understand, have enough understanding to your manager. You need to speak the same language. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult to manage anything in the organization. This
sounds
is
great.
what I, and also they need to feel the leadership skills in themselves. Leadership, if they feel they have leadership skills, they love tracking, following up, organization, I can tell these students that this position is for you.
Yes, sounds great. Do you find that mostly the EAs are female in Turkey?
Actually, the understanding here is that the executive assistant should be female, but recently, of course, is changing. I have a friend in Ankara, the capital city of Turkey. He's a guy, he's a super talented executive assistant. This is one of the example I can give for executive assistant. He is the only guy I have as executive assistant, to be honest. But I hope that this definition will also change slowly in Turkey. Especially in high school, the guys come near me and asking, "Yeah, we understand that you are okay doing this job for 18 years. It's good. It sounds good, but we are male, so how it will happen?" They hesitate to be executive assistant because, as I said, the understanding is that just this job is for ladies. But I'm trying to change this. I'm trying to give example of my friend in Ankara, Farkat. Look, there is a guy. He's a great sample for you. You can follow up him, how he's becoming a good executive assistant. How it is in California, female or male or balanced?
There, I have yet to. There are a few men in admin roles, not many. Most are women. And then going back to your talk about executive assisting, it's so funny that a lot of the higher up females in EA roles, they'll actually be considered associate management business partners or something along those lines. And so it's a completely different title. It's like they're like a business partner with the executive. So yeah.
But I hope this will change, and men also should be able to involve this position. So we will see what's going to happen, and we are supporting each of us, no matter female or male. We are just trying to get connected. And also, maybe 1 hour ago, I interviewed with an executive assistant. He's in Italy. He's a guy. Yeah, I forgot. He's very new. He's also the member of IMA, Marco Macente, I guess Macente. He found me via LinkedIn. He watched my interviews and he said, "Oh, great, I am also a member of IMA. We need to see each other in one of the events of IMA." I said, "Yeah, okay, let's talk about executive assistant. This can be interesting for also the colleagues of us to see where we are also." Because many people are impatient to see in globally where we are. As I told you that in one of our meetings last week, we were talking about what the other executive assistants are doing in all around the world. We don't know. We don't know. Yes, we know each other. We have the same title, but the, let's say, concept of this position is different wherever you go. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
it's different, but it's good to get a male contact from another country. It's really nice, and he's very successful. He loves his job. He loves his job, and he's doing his job almost, let's say, 8 years.
Oh, that's great to hear. Wow.
Yeah, slowly we are expanding to another countries, and it's good to stay connected. That's why I texted you also. I'm thankful to you that you accepted my interview request. It's
Yeah,
really meaning a lot to me, and let's see, I'm trying to find, also trying to reach executive assistant in other countries to really stay connected, because when we are like this, we can increase the consciousness in other
exactly.
countries as well. So as I always say, I am nothing individual. I can't change the world, but we can change the world all together. So
I agree. I love it.
yeah, really, and really appreciate you take time for me, and you trusted me, and that's
Yeah, thank
why.
you for the questions. Those were good. And definitely, yeah, definitely good to be able to connect with you as well.
Yeah, I love social media. It's good. It's connecting people. And you have new network. Now you have me here in Turkey. Whenever you come here, I will be so happy to host you.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Me too. In
you
California,
can.
I'm about an hour away from San Francisco. So,
Uh,
yeah.